They called her the Gardener, and for 6 years she tended her intelligence with the patience of someone who knew the harvest would be terrible. Cassia Morne had been many things before she was pardoned. A diplomat's apprentice, a ledger operative, the woman who helped engineer the coercive architecture that strangled 3 worlds into submission. 3 weeks ago, the substrate's amnesty provision had released her into a galaxy that had not decided yet whether to thank her or hate her. Above Jessaad, the repair work never stopped. Coalition warships sat in magnetic cradles along the scaffold rings, their hulls open to the void where enviro-suited crews moved in slow arcs of plasma torchlight. Below, through the scaffold gaps, Jessaad's agricultural plains stretched in their patchwork of green and dust yellow and black, the colour of a world that had survived one war and was being asked to survive another. Lysara Aethonis stood at the central console of her flagship's bridge, her star map mantle displaying Death World resonance data in luminous thread. 3 patches near her left shoulder had gone dark, territories lost, the map updating in real time, indifferent to the cost of its own accuracy. She had been awake for 31 hours. When the courier ship's docking request came through, she read Morne's name on the manifest and stood very still for the length of 3 breaths before she authorized the approach. Vex Karan was already waiting at the repair bay's inner briefing alcove when Morne came through the pressurized door. She had positioned herself with her back to the curved wall and her pale green eyes on the entrance. The sidearm at the small of her back a fact rather than a threat, the silent choir's interlocking circles glyph at the base of her shaved skull, catching the bay's harsh overhead light. She did not speak when Morne entered. She simply watched, with the flat operational stillness of someone cataloguing variables. Halia Vaughn arrived from the groundside, still carrying the smell of Jessaad's soil. The progenitor thread irrigation cabling wrapped twice around her left wrist caught the light as she moved. She looked at Morne the way she looked at terrain she was about to cross, not with hostility, but with the precise attention of someone who understood that the ground could be solid and still kill you if you stepped wrong. She took a position at the stone briefing table and waited. Morne opened the courier case and placed a data chip on the table, then a second, then a third. She said, "The armada that destroyed Rethane Listening Post is called the Reclaimers." She said, "They are not an alien species, and they are not a rogue house, and they are not the Compact's remnant. They are 200,000 human beings who have been traveling for 12 centuries in deep space, governed by a progenitor consciousness fragment that their ancestors carried when they fled the War of 9 Suns." She said all of this without sitting down, her hands moving with the precision of someone trained in oratory. The holographic display showed what the Rethane debris field had looked like from a sensor drone that survived the strike by 7 minutes. Where a compact modular station had orbited a blue-grey gas giant, now only tumbling fragments of hull plating and shattered antenna mast rotated slowly in the planet's gravity well. The Reclaimer fleet's departure vector was visible as a fading starfall signature, a drive architecture the charted galaxy had not used in 12 centuries. Its geometry unmistakable to anyone who had spent time in the Compact's Codex vault. Vex said, "How long have you known this?" It was not a question about the intelligence, it was a question about betrayal, and Morne heard it correctly. She said, "I identified the Rethane signal pattern as pre-war progenitor architecture 14 months ago, when I was still the Gardener." She said, "I did not know what it meant then." She said, "I know what it means now because I spent 8 months inside the Compact's Codex vault, cross-referencing the old dialect against the rival fragment's broadcast signature, and I did not tell Cade what I found." Lysara had been standing at the alcove's entrance for the last 4 minutes of this exchange. She stepped forward now, her star map mantle luminous in the repair bay's harsh light. 3 dark patches near her left shoulder, like wounds that had stopped bleeding but not closed. She looked at the data chips on the table. She looked at Morne. She said, "Tell me about the signal." Morne activated the holographic display column. What appeared was not a fleet schematic or a star map. It was a waveform, a resonance frequency rendered in amber light, its geometry more complex than any human-designed signal, its cadence recognizable to anyone who had spent time near a chorus station. The waveform pulsed with the same rhythmic precision as the seed's blue-white resonance, but its color was wrong. Its color had always been wrong. Morne said, "The frequency is tuned to the progenitor substrate architecture that underlies chorus-sustained death worlds. When this signal reaches a world where the seed's terraforming protocol is active and maintained by human chorus speakers, it does not destroy the system." She paused. She said, "It overwrites it." She said, "The life support infrastructure continues functioning, the water reclamation, the atmospheric processing, the irrigation, but it no longer serves the people living on it. It serves reclaimer colonization patterns. The transition takes hours. The people on the surface will not know it has happened until the water stops reaching their quarter of the grid." Halia Vaughan's hand moved to the irrigation cabling at her wrist. She unwound it slowly, one loop and then the second, and set it on the stone table. She did not look at it after she put it down. The progenitor thread cabling lay on the rough stone, still faintly luminous, its blue-white light dimming as it lost contact with her skin. It looked like a thing that had been alive. Vex said, "You are asking us to restructure the entire coalition's defensive posture based on intelligence gathered by a woman who spent 6 years working for the entity we just finished fighting." Morne said, "Yes." Vex said, "Give me a reason that is not your word." Morne reached into the courier case and produced a 4th data chip, smaller than the others, its casing cracked along one edge. She said, "This is a fragment of the Rethane debris analysis. The drive signature encoded in this chip matches the resonance frequency in the broadcast waveform. They are the same system." She set the chip on the table and stepped back. Lysara picked up the cracked data chip. She turned it over in her fingers. The pale line on her right hand where her seal ring had once sat was visible as she moved. The tremor spreading from that hand, the one she controlled in public by keeping it occupied. She let the tremor be visible for exactly 2 seconds. Then she closed her fingers around the chip and looked at Morne and said, "What is the range of the overwrite signal?" Morne said, "Any world within 6 light hours of the Armada's broadcast array." She said, "At current trajectory, Jessaad's orbital infrastructure enters range in 11 days. She said, "The death worlds of the Phelan corridor enter range in 19. She said, "Solabri Prime," she paused, "enters range in 23. The repair bay was very loud. Hull work vibrated through the floor. Plasma torches hissed beyond the alcove's sealed door. None of it touched the silence inside." The 4th data chip contained intercepted signal footage, a fragment of a Reclaimer Command broadcast captured by a choir sensor drone before Rethane went dark. Admiral Soraya Kess appeared on the holographic column, deep bronze skin weathered by decades of shipboard radiation, silver-white hair in a severe crown braid threaded with progenitor alloy filaments, glowing faintly blue at the temples. Dark amber eyes with a reflective quality, a uniform of black progenitor woven fabric bearing a single crystalline shard at the throat. She was not speaking to the drone, she was speaking to her fleet. She was telling them they were coming home. Behind Kess in the intercepted footage, a young man stood at the edge of the bridge. The first speaker, Naveen Kess, with the same bronze skin and amber eyes as his mother, but softer featured, a scholar's face on a soldier's frame. His reclaimer clerical robes had the sleeves rolled to the elbows, revealing forearms covered in hand-inked transcriptions of the rival fragment's liturgy, each phrase annotated in his own shorthand with corrections and questions. He was watching his mother speak. He was not nodding along. Morne said, "There is dissent inside the reclaimer command." She said, "The first speaker questions the fragment's permanence," she said. "I do not know yet what that cost him." Lysara set the data chip on the table. She said, "Vex." Vex said, "Yes." Lysara said, "Verify the drive signature against the Choir Network's deep rim sensor logs." Vex said, "I have 3 contacts who can pull that data within 6 hours." She said it the way she said everything, flatly, operationally, but she was already moving toward the communication terminal at the alcove's far wall. Halia said, "I need to know which canals are most exposed." She said it to no one in particular, which meant she was already calculating. Morne said, "I can give you the substrate vulnerability map." She said, "I built part of it." She pulled the second data chip from the table and slid it to Halia. The holographic display shifted to show Jessaad's canal network overlaid with the overwrite signal's penetration model, the amber of the reclaimer frequency advancing across the blue-white of the seed's resonance like oil across water. The canal glyphs that the Jessaad farmers had mistaken for decoration for generations, now rendered in amber, claimed, converted, serving another purpose entirely. Lysara walked to the alcove's single viewport. Below, through the scaffold gaps, Jessaad's fields were visible in the orbital morning. Green where the irrigation still reached, dust yellow where it had been cut. She pressed her right hand flat against the viewport glass. The tremor transferred into the glass and disappeared. She stood there for the length of time it took to understand that the intelligence was true. Not because she trusted Morne, but because the alternative, that it was false, required a galaxy that no longer existed. She turned back to the room. She said, "I want the fleet refit prioritized for deep space engagement profiles." She said, "I want the chorus coordination network notified of the overwrite frequency within the hour. Every speaker needs to know what they are defending against." She said, "I want Kale on an open channel in 20 minutes. She looked at Morne last. She said, "You will remain aboard this ship." She said, "Not because I trust you." She said, "Because you are the only person in this room who has seen the rival fragment's broadcast architecture from the inside, and I cannot afford to send that knowledge away on a courier ship." Morne said, "Understood." She said it without relief, which was the correct response. Relief would have meant she had expected something different. She set her bare hands flat on the stone table, the same gesture Cade had always made, hands visible, unadorned. And then she lifted them and folded them at her sides, because she was not Cade, and the gesture was not hers to keep. The open channel to Kale connected 22 minutes later. His face on the display showed the surgical scar from his right temple to behind his ear, the matte black prosthetic hand resting on the console edge, the civilian clothes that were always slightly too well tailored. He listened to Morne's summary without interrupting. When she finished, the channel was quiet for 11 seconds. Kyle said, "The progenitor drive signature. Is it consistent across the entire fleet or variable by vessel class?" Morne said, "Consistent." He said, "Then the fragment is maintaining the drive systems centrally." He said, "If you disrupt the broadcast, you disrupt the fleet." The channel was quiet for another 4 seconds. Then Kyle said, "I am moving." The transmission ended. Vex looked up from the communication terminal. She said, "He did not ask where he was moving to." Halia said, "He already knows." She was looking at the substrate vulnerability map, the amber of the reclaimer frequency still advancing across the blue-white of Jessaad's canals on the holographic display. and she was calculating the distance between what she had built and what could be taken from her in hours. After the briefing ended and the room emptied toward its separate tasks, Lysara noticed the emblem on Morne's cuffs for the first time. Not the compact's interlocking rings, but a closed hand releasing a star. She asked what it meant. Morne said she had designed it herself the night the amnesty was signed and could not explain it then. She said, "I can now." She said, "It means I am done holding things I should have let go 6 years ago." Lysara looked at the emblem for a long moment. She said nothing. She walked back to her bridge. Vex Karen dispatched 3 choir network contacts within the hour. She did not tell Lysara she had done it. She did not tell Morne. She sent the verification request in the choir's cipher, flagged it urgent, and returned to the briefing alcove to look at the cracked data chip still lying on the stone table. She picked it up. She turned it over once. She put it in her uniform pocket and went back to work. The most hostile voice in the room had become the first to act on intelligence she had refused to accept. She would not explain this to anyone because the explanation was simple, and she did not deal in simple things. The data was right, and being right mattered more than being trusted. Outside the repair bay, in the magnetic cradles along the scaffold rings, the plasma torches kept burning. The work did not stop. It could not afford to. 11 days was not enough time to make a battered fleet into a fleet capable of fighting a 12-century-old progenitor warship. But it was enough time to make it capable of something, and Lysara Aethonis had built a career on the difference between those two things. The gardener had come with her harvest, and it was terrible, and it was true, and the galaxy had 11 days to decide what to do with it.